Chapter 2. "Land ahoy!" shouted one of the frogs after what seemed like no time at all. The children ran to the bow of the ship. The sky became a paler and paler blue as they left space's atmosphere and descended towards the planet called Beatrice. All was green below until Stella and Dot could make out individual trees in a far-reaching forest. "Ha ha!" trumpeted a horn from below as children ran out from a house built high up in a tree. "Thump!" wheezed the rubber cushions as they expanded until firm, and whiz went the ropes as they slipped through the frog's suction-y pads. And thud went the heavy sandbag anchor as it hit the ground below. The Salvager had landed in a giant treehouse. Children waved to the girls from the treehouse deck as tree frogs, birds and squirrels tied the ship's ropes to the branches. The girls followed Gus down the ship's plank and onto the deck, where the children greeted them, cheering. "Welcome, Stella and Dot," said a beaming little girl at the front. "I'm Flora, one of the council members on Beatrice." Flora didn't look much older than Stella. She had short, spiky hair, freckles on her nose, and a pointy little chin that made her look a little like a pixie. Stella thought Flora really lived up to her name, meaning plants, as the girl had flowers shooting out of her buttonholes and sleeves. "We're so glad you came," Flora said. "Please, make yourselves comfortable." She offered the girls her hands and led them to an area covered in cushions and rugs. Crystals hung from the branches of the tree, and as they caught the sun, rays of light danced around the floor, all the colours of the rainbow. As the breeze blew, wind chimes tinkled magically in the background. It was like a dream, but better because they could touch it. Gus shook his seat next to the girls, and children settled in around them. The girls looked at them and realised they were just like them, curious and excited, with wild hair and dirty feet. "What is this place?" asked Stella, who didn't know where to start. Flora began to explain. "Beatrice is a small planet that has given endangered animals from Earth a home for thousands of years. We have Baiji white dolphins, Pyrenean ibexes, Stella's sea cows, great auks. There's a long list. Even some animals that aren't endangered moved here when they'd had enough of all the hardships on Earth." "I've never heard of it at school or at home," said Stella. "Well, you wouldn't have," said Flora. "Beatrice is completely invisible to grown-ups. They don't know it exists. They think most of the animals here are extinct. Beatrice was made to stop that from happening." Stella knew something that her mum and dad didn't. She was starting to really like the place. "Gus has done a few trips to Earth recently and is worried for a great deal of the animals there. We think it's time some more of them were offered a life here." Stella was amazed. "I'd love to, but we have to go to school." "Maybe she doesn't care about animals after all," said a boy who had been staring rudely at both the girls. His long dark hair blew across his face and he pushed it away angrily. His clothes were made from fur and he was covered in mud, his shins speckled with bruises. "I do care about animals," said Stella, staring straight back at the boy. "I've only ever wanted to be a vet and help animals. I happen to like animals a lot more than I like people." And she arched her eyebrows at him in a way that she hoped said, "Especially you." "I wouldn't want Mum and Dad to worry," said Dot. "They wouldn't. They'd never know you were gone," said Flora. Her kind face was reassuring. "Gus would come and get you for missions and have you back before they even noticed. The ship's clever like that." "But if we told them, I'm sure they'd "No!" interrupted the boy, making Dot jump. "Don't shout at my sister," shouted Stella. It was getting rather loud. Gus flapped up to her side. "He doesn't mean any harm. I'm sorry he startled you both. This is Fauna. He's very protective of Beatrice." Gus looked at the boy. "Fauna, you should apologise." "Sorry," Fauna mumbled. Just like Flora, who clearly loved plants, Stella thought Fauna lived up to his name, which meant animals. He looked predatory, like he would be at home living with a pack of wolves. Gus continued. "We just have a rule that grown-ups don't know about us. Sometimes the more they know, the more harm they do. We have to make sure we keep Planet Beatrice safe. Life is simple here. There are no buildings or machines, and that's how it must stay. The future is more important to us than grown-ups. We know what really matters. Sometimes grown-ups forget," added Flora. "Mum and Dad are kind people, though," Dot continued quietly. "They're vets too. They wouldn't hurt anyone." "Oh, I don't doubt that, little miss," said Gus gently. "But that is the rule, I'm afraid. We will understand if you don't feel it is for you. Stella looked at her sister. Can we have a minute? She asked Flora. Of course, replied the girl. Please, take your time. We're so grateful that you came. The council left, leaving the girls to talk. They walked over to the edge of the deck and leant on the banister, looking out at the trees. It was a hot day and the air was heavy and sticky. Birds flew at their eye level and monkeys swung from the limbs of the trees. They had never seen so much wildlife. Now the bush where they lived seemed quite quiet. I don't like that boy, said Stella. No, replied her sister, but you don't like loads of boys at school. Doesn't stop you from going. That's true, said Stella. It would be so dangerous. But exciting, said Dot. You'll get tired. I won't complain. You'll forget and tell Mum and Dad. I won't, I promise. I like it here. I want to help them. Me too, replied Stella. And now I know the adventures we could be having, I think I'd be sad not having them. And Stella realised that that would be unbearable. Okay, she said, let's try it. But if I decide that we should go home, we will. Deal? Deal, Dot said with delight and shouted, woohoo, very loudly. The council all came running at the noise. Have you decided? Asked Flora. Yes, said Stella. We accept your offer. We would love to help. The children jumped up and cheered. The birds and the frogs sang, the squirrels danced, and Gus let out an excited, accidental puff of wind from his tail. He pointed to the horizon and said, oh, look at that interesting cloud. Flora held the girl's hands. This is such wonderful news. So many animals will be grateful, just as we are. It's a really important job, and one you won't be able to do unless you can talk to the animals and understand them, just as you do with Gus. That was easy. We understood him straight away, said an overly confident Stella. Maybe we can understand all the animals here now. Try it, said Fauna, smirking to himself. A squirrel scurried past and Stella cleared her throat. Excuse me. The squirrel continued on his way. Excuse me. Stella tried again, a little louder, and the squirrel turned around. My name's Stella. What's yours? The squirrel squeaked and Stella turned red. I have to give you the power to talk with other animals, girls, said Gus. Are you sure you're ready? Yes, said the girls together. Stella wondered what her pet rabbit would say. Okay then, said the bird. You'd better sit down. The girls sat on the floor and held hands. Gus began to dance. His feet jigged up and down as if he was standing on hot coals, and he flapped his wings with increasing urgency. Soon he started to sing, ha, bok, ha, faster and faster, and louder, until his wings were a blur, and dust swirled around him, and the girls, ha, bok, ha. Suddenly he stopped and collapsed on the floor. He looked up and placed his wings on the girls' shoulders. He opened his beak, and an orange mist surrounded the three of them. I give you this power to talk to the animal kingdom. Use it for good, or it will go. We will, said Stella. We promise, said Dot. The mist settled and all was calm. The squirrel came towards the girls. My name's James, he said. Nice to meet you. Dot was just opening her mouth to respond when she was interrupted by the blare of a trumpet. What's that? Dot asked. That sound announces the beginning of a celebratory feast. You're joining the Council of Planet Beatrice, said Gus. The treehouse erupted into a party. A band of toucans picked up some instruments and started playing jazz music, while a Bengal tiger slowly made her way to the stage. Lemurs breakdanced and chimpanzees tangoed. The tiger picked up a microphone and purred into it. All on the deck went wild. Stella's mouth was open wide with astonishment. Her legs couldn't help but dance. A young boy yanked on her pyjamas, pulling her face down level to his. He laughed, stuck his finger in a pot of purple goo, and wiped stripes of it on her nose and cheeks. She was deciding whether or not to tell him off when she saw Dot out of the corner of her eye, laughing with delight, her face covered in goo. Stella smiled at the little boy, and he toddled off to paint the rest of the council tribe. Boom, ba, ba, boom, ba, ba, boom, went the beat of the drums as some monkeys hit them rhythmically with their hands and feet. Animals were hurrying in and out of a door in the trunk of the treehouse. 2 birds flew past Stella towards it, and she caught a snippet of their conversation. Starving. Hope they've got those potato waffles again. Stop it, my beak's watering just thinking about it. Stella went to have a look. She peered through the entrance and saw a huge kitchen. The tree was hollow on the inside. Children were stirring massive pots of bubbling soup. Frogs were stoking a fire and a sloth was shelling some peas. Stella stared at him as he tried to open the pea shells with his long fingernails. "I know," he said through a wide yawn. "It's a terrible job. I don't know why they give it to me." Peas flew everywhere. The sloth laid his head on the kitchen table and went to sleep. Hundreds of little candles sat in carved-out nooks in the tree, making everything glow warmly. The smell of food was unbelievably delicious and the kitchen was packed. Stella moved around the room, trying not to get in anyone's way. "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me," she said as she backed into something and then gulped when she realised it was a jaguar. His remarkable orange and black fur rippled as he moved and his piercing green eyes locked on her grey ones. Her heart skipped a beat. She started to back away. "No problem, Stella," said the jaguar, and continued patting dough with his paw. He used one of his claws to cut the dough into balls. Stella hadn't breathed for a while. "Bread rolls," he said. "Of course," she replied, unsure of the right thing to say to a baking jaguar. A stack of bowls greeted her. "Hi, Stella. Lovely of you to join us." Stella looked behind the bowls and found a little girl carrying them. "Can I help?" she asked. "Oh, yes, please." The girl handed Stella the stack. "Can you take these out to the deck?" "No problem." Stella headed to the door. She'd almost made it outside when something pushed past her and stuck its leg out in front of her foot. She fought to keep her balance but couldn't, and landed on her knees, all the bowls clattering to the floor. The little girl ran over to help her. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I gave you too many." "It wasn't that," said Stella. "Something tripped me up." She looked round the room. All the animals were continuing with their work. It was a hive of activity. The entire room was filled with movement. "There's always someone in your way in the kitchen," explained the girl. "Everyone wants to be in here, especially in winter." But Stella was only half listening. She'd spotted Fauna with a boy and a girl. They were looking at her and smiling nastily from across the room. Had they tripped her over? Stella picked herself up and decided she'd ignore them for now. She had no proof it was Fauna that had tripped her up, just a feeling that he was to blame. She helped the girls pick up the bowl, and they carried them outside. "I'm Bramble," said the girl. "So good to meet you. We'd been waiting ages for Gus and the council to find the right child to help the animals, and now they've found two." "Oh, Dot! I've forgotten all about my sister. Do you know where she is?" Stella couldn't believe she hadn't kept an eye on her. She looked around frantically. "Up there," said Bramble, and pointed to a swing above them. It was tied high up in the tree so that it swung the whole length of the deck. On the swing, next to Dot, sat Gus, his tail feathers blowing in the breeze as they swung. Dot was always smiling, but Stella didn't think she'd ever seen her smile this wide before. Children and frogs poured out of the kitchen, carrying dish after dish of delicious treats. Baked potatoes and sweet corn, bowls of peanut butter and stacks of toast, bright coloured vegetables and sticky, honey-covered bananas. The frogs had arranged the cushions in a large circle, and all the children hurried to a long table to scoop the food into their bowls and find a place to sit. Stella found her sister in the throng and gave her a hug. As much as she sometimes found her younger sister annoying, she was really glad she was here. The girls looked around for somewhere to sit and saw Flora waving to join them. The girls took their seats opposite Flora and a boy who introduced himself as River. "It's good to finally meet you," he said. "So, what do you think so far?" It's quite a lot to take in," said Stella. "Well, I think it's the best place in the whole world," said Dot. "Wait, we're not in the world, are we? I think it's the best place in all the worlds." "Well, I think it's the best place in the whole world," said Dot. "Wait, we're not in the world, are we? Well, I think it's the best place in all the worlds." "How did you find us?" asked Stella. "I mean, why us?" "Your magazine, The Planet, How to Stop Ruining It," said Flora. The title really caught our attention. Stella had started a magazine out of recycled paper at school. Strangely enough, it wasn't particularly popular, but that hadn't put her off. "We were looking for someone who felt strongly about animals and the environment," said River. "Why not one of the council? It takes a lot of us to look after Planet Beatrice, and we needed someone who knows Earth." What about me? Asked Dot. How can I help? I hope I don't slow you down, she said to Stella, her eyes welling up. You won't, said Stella. I'm sorry if it sometimes feels like that. I'm really glad you're here. Us too, said Flora. When we heard Stella had a sister with such a big heart, we were absolutely convinced you two were just what we needed. Dot beamed. Thank you, she squealed and launched herself over her bowl to hug everyone. Stella could feel her dinner spill into her lap and she brushed it off before Dot could see. When everyone had finished eating, Flora and Dot tidied the table and Stella and River took the bowls into the kitchen to wash up. River scrubbed the bowls in a soapy water and handed them to Stella to rinse. She looked at him as he washed. He had very short blonde hair that looked like it had been shaved and deep-set eyes that made it hard to read his expression. But standing so close to him, Stella could see his eyes were bright blue, as if a light shone behind them. He made her feel nervous, and she wasn't sure why. She wasn't normally shy around boys. So, what's Australia like? He asked. It's cool, you know. That was a strange thing for her to say, she thought. He didn't know at all. That's why he was asking. I mean, it's pretty boring, really. What was she doing? It's not boring at all. She felt herself starting to go red. It's not boring. Actually, it's fantastic. You should come visit sometime. She was going to have to stop talking soon if her mouth insisted on saying silly things. River smiled. Maybe. Kind of like it here, though. Stella turned a deeper shade of red. For some reason, this boy turned her into an idiot. Stop, right now, she thought to herself. Be normal. What do you do on Beatrice? And why is it called Beatrice, anyway? She asked. We call it Bea. It's named after a girl, Beatrice. River looked away. Stella thought he looked sad all of a sudden. She wondered who this girl Beatrice was, and was just about to ask when River turned back to look at her, his eyes shining brighter than ever. I'm a forager. I find food for us in the forest. We're vegetarian here, so finding and growing enough food is important. There's a gardening team that grows fruit and vegetables, and I find ingredients that grow in the wild. Mushrooms, nuts, berries, plants. It's incredible how much is out there. And you can tell what's poisonous. She realised she'd have to wait to find out more about Beatrice. Yes, some plants are poisonous. I'm pretty good at telling them apart. I can teach you sometime, if you'd like. That would be good. A new sensation was stirring in Stella's tummy at the thought of spending more time with River. It was a mixture of very excited and a bit like she might throw up. They finished washing their bowls and walked outside. Dot and Gus came towards them. Stella, my dear, I think it's time we got you girls home. Now that Gus had said it, Stella realised just how tired she was. Perhaps, but we'll come back. Gus nodded. Oh, yes, we do hope so. We have to prepare you for your first mission. Stella had a rush of nerves. There was a lot she had to learn, and she didn't want to fail. Gus seemed to read her mind. You have the power to speak to and understand all the animals now. When you are ready for the job, you must listen to their stories and tell them about us. Tell them there's hope. We will, said Stella, determined to do everything she could to help. We have a game of leapfrog coming up too. That'll be good training, River said. You've got to come back for that. Can't wait, Stella replied, feeling determined. Right, said Gus. Let's get these girls home. See you later, Stella, said River. Bye, River. What is wrong with you? Asked Dot. Why is your face all stupid and happy? Shut up, said Stella, still smiling. The girls boarded the ship and the frogs released the ropes, allowing the Salvager to rise gently from the deck of the treehouse, its balloon now emerald green. Goodbye, came shouts from the deck. See you soon. The girls waved goodbye to the extraordinary children and animals below. The ship's pace increased and it whizzed up into space. The girls slumped against the wall and Gus covered them in blankets. Incapable of keeping their eyes open, they drifted off to sleep, only to be woken moments later by Gus's feathery touch. We're home, girls. As the rubber cushions touched down on the roof of the girls' house, Gus hugged them both with his soft, warm wings. Now, you two get a proper sleep. And remember, not a word to anyone. I shall be back in a week. I think you'll really like a game of leapfrog. Good night, Gus, said Dot, yawning. Good night, Gus, said Stella. The girls kissed him goodbye and climbed down the trellis into their room. They had so much to talk about, but it would have to wait. Stella climbed into her bed and looked at the clock. It was 11:37 p.m. Had they really just been gone minutes? She tried to understand, but couldn't work anything more out for the day. She fell fast asleep.